When Liam O'Connor disappeared from a quiet Liverpool street, and Zara Hughes vanished without a trace from her own neighborhood, the city realized its shadows were alive. Behind the familiar streets and bustling corners, unseen forces were controlling lives, spreading fear, and keeping deadly secrets. Welcome to the most dangerous corners of Liverpool. Liverpool is a city known for its music, its football, and its bustling waterfront. But beneath the familiar landmarks and tourist attractions lies a side few people see. The streets, at first glance, seem normal. People walk to work, children play in the parks, and cafes are filled with laughter. Yet in the shadows, danger waits quietly. The dark corners of Liverpool are not marked on any map. They exist in abandoned buildings, narrow alleys, and forgotten streets, where streetlights flicker and time feels slowed. Those who live near these areas know better than to venture out alone after dark, for the calm is only a surface. Crime in Liverpool is not always loud. It does not always announce itself with sirens or gunshots. Sometimes, it hides behind ordinary faces and ordinary places. A shop that seems empty may be a front for something illegal. A quiet park may host deals that leave lives in ruin. The criminals of Liverpool operate with precision. They know the streets better than anyone and can disappear into the shadows before anyone notices. For outsiders, the city looks safe. For those who know, every corner, every alley, and every darkened doorway could hide something dangerous. This hidden side of the city thrives on secrecy and fear. The people who navigate these areas do so carefully, memorizing which streets to avoid, which faces to trust, and which signs mean trouble. It is a world where silence is survival and where even a simple mistake can have fatal consequences. Residents who have witnessed the crimes speak of an invisible rule, a code that the criminals follow. Crossing it is dangerous, questioning it is dangerous, watching it unfold is dangerous. Every day the city hums with life above ground, but beneath it, the criminal world moves silently, leaving scars that most people will never see. What makes these corners even more terrifying is how quickly things can change. A quiet street can become the site of a robbery in minutes. An ordinary evening can turn into a nightmare. Witnesses describe the sense of unease, the feeling that danger is always lurking just around the corner. People learn to recognize it. A shadow that moves differently, a car that seems out of place, or footsteps that echo too loudly. These small signs are warnings, and ignoring them can be deadly. Liverpool's history of crime is complex. From petty theft to organized gangs, the city has seen decades of violence, much of it hidden from the public eye. In the heart of the city, the waterfront and shopping districts thrive. But just a few streets away, the criminal world has its own rules. Those who live there navigate an invisible maze, where trust is rare, and betrayal is common. Every story, every disappearance, and every unsolved crime is a piece of a larger puzzle, a puzzle that reveals the true danger of Liverpool's hidden corners. The city continues to grow, attracting visitors and new residents, but these dangerous corners remain. They are a reminder that beneath the vibrant culture and historic streets, there is a part of Liverpool few ever see, a part ruled by shadows and fear. The more you look, the more you realize that the city has two faces, one bright and welcoming, the other dark and unpredictable, where danger waits silently for anyone who dares to enter. In Liverpool's most dangerous neighborhoods, crime often moves quietly, hidden beneath the surface of everyday life. The city's bustling streets mask an underworld that operates like a shadow society. Small, unassuming shops, abandoned warehouses and empty apartments are used as fronts for illegal activities that range from drug trafficking to stolen goods and money laundering. On the outside, these places seem harmless, even ordinary, but inside deals are made, rules are enforced, and lives are put at risk. The people who run these operations are careful, organized, and often invisible to those who don't know where to look. The drug trade in these areas is particularly insidious. Dealers do not operate openly, but they have their methods. Packages are exchanged in quiet corners, Deliveries happen under the cover of night, and communication is coded, leaving very little trace. The effects of this trade, however, are impossible to ignore. Families are torn apart, neighborhoods are plagued by fear, and even those who try to stay uninvolved can become victims of the violence it brings. The community lives with the knowledge that at any moment, someone could be caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Stolen goods move through these corners just as silently. Electronics, jewelry, and even vehicles change hands in unmarked vans and back alleys. The operations are efficient, almost mechanical, and they rely on a network of people who know the city intimately. The criminal groups controlling these trades have rules, but their enforcement is brutal. Disobedience or mistakes are punished swiftly, leaving no room for error. Those who are caught often disappear from the streets, their fate known only to those within the network. Money laundering also thrives in Liverpool's hidden corners. Businesses that seem legitimate are used to hide illegal earnings. Restaurants, laundromats, and small retail shops can act as fronts, moving cash and keeping the flow of illicit money hidden from authorities. To the casual observer, everything seems normal. But beneath the surface, a complex system allows crime to fund itself and continue its growth. The people involved are skilled at staying invisible, blending into the community while controlling a dangerous hidden economy. The impact of these activities is felt by everyone nearby. Residents report a constant tension in the air, a feeling that trouble could erupt at any moment. The quiet streets are often punctuated by sudden sirens or flashes of violence, moments that remind the community of the dangers just beneath their feet. Children are warned not to wander too far, and even adults are cautious when stepping out after dark. Fear becomes a way of life, as the knowledge of hidden operations changes how people move and interact. Despite police efforts, these silent dealers are difficult to catch. They are patient, careful, and skilled at covering their tracks. They use the city's layout to their advantage, hiding in plain sight while maintaining control over entire neighborhoods. The quiet efficiency of their operations is part of what makes them so dangerous. For those living near these corners, life is a constant balance between normality and danger, with every day carrying the potential for violence or loss. Liverpool's dangerous corners are not defined by loud crimes, but by the invisible networks that sustain them. The people who inhabit these areas live in a world where silence is protection and knowledge is survival. Every street, every building, and every alley can conceal activities that most of the city will never know, yet the impact is undeniable. The city may appear vibrant and welcoming, but in these neighborhoods, danger thrives quietly, leaving a trail of fear, loss, and uncertainty. One of the most terrifying aspects of Liverpool's hidden corners is the sudden and unexplained disappearances of people. These are not ordinary missing persons cases. They happen quietly, without warning, and often leave the community in shock. One day someone is seen walking down the street or leaving their home, and the next, they are gone. No notes are left behind, no calls are made, and no one claims responsibility. The vanished individuals range from teenagers to adults, from casual visitors to long-time residents, creating a sense of unpredictability that leaves the city on edge. The disappearances seem random at first, but as time passes, patterns emerge. Certain neighborhoods, once considered safe, become dangerous almost overnight. Police investigations are complicated by the lack of evidence. CCTV footage is limited, witnesses are scarce, and those who do see something often fear speaking out. Rumors spread quickly, some claiming organized criminal groups are behind the disappearances, while others suggest rival factions fighting for control. The truth is rarely clear, leaving families desperate for answers and the public filled with suspicion. The effect on the community is immediate and deep. Streets that were once lively become quiet and tense. Parents worry about sending their children to school, neighbors avoid eye contact, and even local business owners lock their doors earlier than usual. The sense of safety, once taken for granted, is replaced by fear. Every stranger, every unfamiliar face, and every shadow moving in the night is met with suspicion. People begin to notice subtle signs: the flicker of a flashlight in a window, a car parked too long near an alley, or someone watching from across the street. These small observations grow into survival instincts, teaching residents to anticipate danger at all times. Some families refuse to leave their homes at night, fearing what may lurk just beyond their doorsteps. Others take precautions during the day, walking in groups and avoiding empty streets. Communities that once trusted local police start questioning their ability to protect them. Even officers investigating the cases are unnerved, as the disappearances often point to highly organized operations beyond simple street crime. Each missing person becomes a reminder of how little control anyone has over what happens in the city's darkest corners. The disappearances also carry a psychological weight. Families and friends are left in limbo, unsure whether their loved ones are alive or dead. Social connections are strained, and fear spreads like a virus, touching everyone in the area. Rumors grow more elaborate with every passing day, adding layers of dread to the reality that something sinister is happening. People speak in hushed tones, exchanging stories about shadows that move too quickly, suspicious vehicles, and quiet whispers in the night. Despite the fear, life must go on. Residents continue to work, shop, and go to school, all while carrying a silent knowledge that danger could strike at any moment. The disappearances are a chilling reminder that Liverpool is not just a city of culture and history. It is a city with hidden corners, where criminal activity thrives, and where people can vanish without a trace. In these areas, normal rules no longer apply. Every step is a risk, and every day carries uncertainty. The city's charm masks a dangerous reality, one that only becomes clear when someone goes missing, leaving behind a void that can never truly be filled. There is one alley in Liverpool that has become notorious among residents. A narrow stretch of pavement that seems ordinary by day, but transforms into something sinister by night. Locals refer to it quietly, never mentioning it in public conversations, yet everyone knows where it is. It is the kind of place where shadows move differently, where the air feels heavier, and where silence carries a weight of its own. By daylight, the alley is just another path between buildings, a shortcut for pedestrians. By night it becomes a stage for the city's hidden crimes, a place where danger waits patiently and violence can erupt without warning. Strangers passing through notice things that do not belong. Faded graffiti, broken streetlights, and discarded items suggest neglect, but they also hint at a different kind of activity. At times a figure appears at the far end, seemingly waiting, watching, then disappears. At other times, quick movements are glimpsed around corners, accompanied by the faint sound of footsteps or doors closing hastily. Residents describe a feeling of being observed, as though the alley itself is alive with unseen eyes. A passage that holds secrets the city refuses to acknowledge. Criminal activity in the alley is not random. It is precise, calculated, and designed to intimidate. Drug exchanges, stolen items, and secret deals are conducted in the shadows, far from the gaze of authorities. Those involved understand the rules of this hidden world. Silence is essential, trust is rare, and observation is dangerous. One misstep, one glance too long, and the consequences can be immediate. It is not just a location, it is a test of nerves, a proving ground where the city's underworld maintains control. Occasionally, screams or shouting break the night's quiet, though they are rare and often dismissed by outsiders as accidents or drunken quarrels. Those who know the alley understand the reality. These are warnings, demonstrations of power meant to remind the community that this space is controlled by forces unseen. Over time, the alley has developed a reputation that stretches beyond its physical limit. Even nearby streets are avoided after dark, as the fear spreads outward. It is no longer just one alley, it is a symbol of the city's hidden dangers. Authorities have attempted investigations, but the alley proves difficult to monitor. Its narrow walls, obscure cameras, and those who use it are cautious and quick. Witnesses are reluctant to come forward, afraid of retaliation. Each attempt to uncover the truth is met with resistance, subtle threats, or vanishing evidence. For those seeking justice, it becomes a frustrating maze, a place where every clue seems to vanish as soon as it is found. Despite the danger, the alley continues to draw attention, not from tourists, but from those who are curious, reckless, or involved in the criminal network itself. Each passing day, the alley witnesses new stories, new transactions, and new moments of fear. For the residents who live nearby, it serves as a constant reminder that Liverpool's beauty is fragile, that beneath the city's bright exterior lies a world where control is enforced by shadows and where every corner can hide secrets that are better left unseen. The alley is more than a passage. It is a testament to the unseen dangers that thrive within the city. It embodies the fear, secrecy, and unpredictability that define Liverpool's most dangerous corners. And as long as it exists, the city's hidden world continues, silently shaping the lives of those who live too close to its darkness. As the crimes in Liverpool escalated, a shadowy figure emerged, one whose influence stretched across neighborhoods yet remained completely unseen. This individual, known only through whispers and rumors, appeared to control the city's underground with precision and ruthlessness. Residents who had once assumed that the disappearances, the secret deals, and the sudden outbreaks of violence were isolated incidents began to notice a pattern. Every crime seemed linked, every disappearance seemed calculated, and every act of intimidation pointed back to the same unseen force. The city was not just random chaos, it was a network orchestrated with chilling control. No one knew the Kingpin's identity. Some believed it was a single person, others suspected a group acting in unison. Attempts by authorities to track them always ended in frustration. Leads evaporated, witnesses recanted their statements, and surveillance footage yielded nothing conclusive. The Kingpin seemed to exist everywhere and nowhere at once, capable of vanishing as quickly as they appeared. People spoke of their presence like a ghost, a constant reminder that someone powerful and dangerous was shaping the events in Liverpool's darkest corners. Their influence was everywhere yet invisible. Drug operations, theft rings, and money laundering networks all appeared to function under an unspoken command. Dealers followed schedules and rules that seemed arbitrary to outsiders, but when examined closely, revealed an intricate system of control. Rival groups avoided certain areas, not out of caution alone, but out of fear that the Kingpin's reach was long and consequences were severe. Even small-time criminals found themselves unable to operate without first understanding the unwritten rules enforced by this mysterious figure. Fear was the Kingpin's most potent weapon. Residents lived with constant unease, unsure of what might happen next. Parents warned their children to stay inside after dark. Neighbors avoided eye contact, and even law-abiding citizens altered their routines, knowing that deviation could attract unwanted attention. Those who dared to step out of line often disappeared, or suffered consequences that served as warnings to others. In this way, the Kingpin maintained control without ever needing to be seen, their reputation alone shaping behavior and enforcing loyalty. The figure's methods were subtle but effective. Threats were rarely verbal. They were demonstrated through sudden acts of violence, intimidation, and manipulation. A car abandoned in the wrong alley, a home broken into, or a business destroyed, could all be messages. The criminal world of Liverpool, though fractured and competitive, operated with a surprising cohesion under this unseen authority. It was a network held together not by camaraderie, but by fear and respect for the Kingpin's power. Even the police, despite their best efforts, struggled to understand the extent of the control. Investigations often revealed only fragments, connections between crimes, patterns of intimidation, and a few names that quickly disappeared from records. The deeper authorities delved, the more elusive the figure became. Each discovery seemed to only hint at a larger, more terrifying presence lurking just out of reach, leaving detectives with more questions than answers. The Kingpin was more than a criminal. They were a symbol of Liverpool's hidden dangers. They represented the unseen forces that govern the city's underworld, the invisible hands that manipulate events from the shadows, and the fear that keeps everyone cautious, compliant, and silent. As the story of Liverpool's dangerous corners unfolds, this figure looms larger, a chilling reminder that control and chaos can coexist, and that sometimes the most dangerous threats are those you never see until it's too late. In the dark corners of Liverpool, loyalty is a rare commodity, and trust is often fatal. The criminal underworld is not a place where alliances last. Friends become enemies overnight, and partnerships dissolve in an instant when greed or fear takes hold. Those involved in the city's illicit activities learn quickly that betrayal is always a possibility. Every deal, every exchange, and every whispered conversation carries the risk of deception. Even most trusted associates are capable of turning on one another if it serves their survival or ambition. The city's network of criminals is fragile, held together by mutual interest rather than genuine trust. Rivalries simmer beneath the surface, waiting for the slightest provocation to erupt into violence. Small disagreements escalate into feuds, and what starts as a minor betrayal can trigger a chain reaction of retaliation. Those caught in these cycles often find themselves isolated, unsure who they can rely on, and aware that a single misstep could cost them everything. Survival depends on vigilance, and even the cleverest individuals can fall prey to deception. Betrayal in Liverpool's streets is rarely straightforward. It often comes in subtle forms: a misleading tip to the police, the theft of valuable goods, or the abandonment of an ally during a critical moment. These acts are calculated to maximize advantage while minimizing risk. Criminals learn to watch each other constantly, reading body language, listening for slips in speech, and interpreting silence as much as words. Even those who survive dangerous encounters carry scars, both physical and emotional, from the betrayals that shaped their world. The psychological toll is immense. Residents who observe these patterns understand that danger is not only external but also internal. One cannot simply fear strangers. The greatest threats often come from those closest. Friends, partners, and even family members involved in criminal activity may make choices that endanger one another. This constant tension creates an environment where suspicion dominates and cooperation is fragile. Every action is weighed against potential consequences, and every relationship is tested for loyalty. These betrayals often have ripple effects beyond the immediate circle of criminals. Families are affected, neighborhoods are destabilized, and the broader community experiences the fallout. An act of treachery in one alleyway can spark violent confrontations blocks away. Children grow up in an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty, witnessing that promises mean little in a world ruled by power and survival. Ordinary citizens, caught between the city's underground conflicts, must navigate streets where even the familiar can suddenly become threatening. Betrayal also fuels the Kingpin's control. By allowing and sometimes encouraging disloyalty among subordinates, the figure ensures that no one becomes too powerful or too independent. Fear of betrayal keeps individuals compliant, careful, and isolated, reinforcing the hierarchy of the criminal world. Those who think they are making their own choices soon realize that every action is watched, judged, and if necessary, punished. In Liverpool's dangerous corners, betrayal is a constant, invisible presence. It shapes behavior, dictates alliances, and enforces caution in a city where trust is a liability. Those who navigate this world must balance survival with suspicion, knowing that friends can become enemies without warning. Every decision carries weight, and every action may provoke consequences far beyond what anyone expects. In a place ruled by shadows and fear, betrayal is not just inevitable. It is the force that keeps the entire underworld moving, unpredictable and deadly. The breakthrough came quietly, almost unnoticed, in the midst of Liverpool's growing chaos. Investigators had been struggling for months to understand the patterns of crime that gripped the city. Disappearances, violent acts, and illegal trades all seemed connected, yet the threads were difficult to follow. Then, hidden in the smallest of details, evidence began to surface. A discarded phone here, a coded message there, and a ledger carefully hidden inside an abandoned building slowly began to reveal the scope of the criminal network operating in the shadows. Each piece was small on its own, but together they painted a terrifyingly clear picture. The hidden evidence told a story of meticulous organization. Numbers and codes suggested that the operations were coordinated with precision. Lists of names, addresses, and times pointed to careful planning and control over multiple neighborhoods. It became clear that the criminal network was far more extensive than anyone had imagined. It was no longer a series of isolated crimes, but a sprawling system where each act of violence, theft, or intimidation served a purpose in maintaining the Kingpin's control. Investigators soon realized that the network was adaptive and intelligent. Every time authorities closed in on one part of the operation, another piece seemed to shift or vanish. Buildings once used for illegal trade suddenly appeared abandoned, contacts disappeared, and messages were erased. The Kingpin's influence was evident not only in the organization of crime, but in the calculated way in which they avoided detection. The more authorities uncovered, the more they understood the sophistication of the system they were up against. The discovery of hidden ledgers and coded messages was particularly significant. They contained records of transactions, movements, and even threats, providing clues about who was involved and how the network operated. But accessing this information was dangerous. Those connected to the network were aware that evidence could be exposed, and any misstep by investigators could provoke violent retaliation. Police and detectives had to move carefully, often working in secrecy to protect themselves while trying to follow the trail. For the community, the revelation of hidden evidence brought a mixture of hope and fear. On one hand, it suggested that the network could be dismantled, that the Kingpin could be exposed, and that the streets could become safer. On the other hand, the knowledge of just how extensive the operations were left residents shaken. The crimes were not random or isolated. They were part of a deliberate, controlled system that had thrived undetected for years. Understanding this made the danger feel closer, more immediate, and more terrifying. As investigators pieced together the evidence, a pattern of hierarchy and influence emerged. Some individuals acted as enforcers, others as messengers or intermediaries, and still others as suppliers. Each person had a role, and together they formed a web that was both complex and resilient. But with the discovery of this structure came an important realization: the network, like any system, had weaknesses. If authorities could exploit them, there was a chance to dismantle the operation from the inside, one connection at a time. The hidden evidence changed the investigation from reactive to proactive. Detectives could anticipate moves, track connections, and identify potential victims before crimes occurred. But with every discovery came greater risk. The Kingpin and their associates were not passive. They monitored the city closely and reacted swiftly to threats. Every step taken by the authorities brought them closer to a dangerous confrontation where the consequences of exposure could be deadly. The tension in Liverpool's hidden corners escalated as the invisible war between law enforcement and the criminal network edged closer to the surface, promising revelations, chaos, and an inevitable reckoning. The city of Liverpool held its breath as the investigation reached its climax. Months of careful work, surveillance, and analysis had finally uncovered the full extent of the criminal network that had haunted the streets. Arrests began quietly, in the dead of night, carried out by teams who understood the danger of confronting an organization so deeply embedded in the city. Each apprehension sent ripples through the underworld, shaking loyalties, exposing secrets, and creating a chain reaction of fear. For the first time, the city's residents sensed that the unseen forces controlling their neighborhoods could be challenged. The Kingpin, once a shadowy presence felt but never seen, became the central focus. Every piece of hidden evidence pointed toward their influence, and law enforcement concentrated on dismantling the hierarchy from top to bottom. Yet the confrontation was not straightforward. The network was designed to survive exposure, with layers of protection and misdirection. Arrests of mid-level operatives triggered violent responses, and streets that had been quiet for months erupted with chaos as rival factions attempted to seize power. The tension in the city reached a fever pitch, a dangerous mix of fear, anticipation, and uncertainty. For families affected by the crimes, the exposure brought a complex mix of relief and lingering pain. Some missing persons were found, disoriented but alive, while others remained lost, their fate a painful reminder that not all stories have closure. Witnesses who had lived in fear for years could finally speak openly, and the community began to heal in small ways. Yet the scars remained. Residents knew that the Kingpin's influence had shaped daily life in subtle ways, and that even with arrests, the fear of retaliation lingered. The city streets, once dominated by invisible threats, slowly began to feel different. Neighborhoods that had been avoided after dark became safer to traverse. Shopkeepers reopened businesses, children played in parks with a renewed sense of security, and local authorities maintained a vigilant presence to prevent resurgence. The dramatic unraveling of the criminal network sent a clear message. Even the most powerful shadows can be challenged, and the persistence of law enforcement and community awareness could tip the balance. Yet the fallout was not entirely predictable. Arrests and exposure disrupted the delicate balance of the underworld, creating power vacuums that others sought to fill. Some rival groups tried to establish control over areas formerly dominated by the Kingpin, leading to brief outbreaks of violence and intimidation. The city was reminded that while one battle may end, the fight for safety and control is ongoing. Liverpool's dangerous corners had been exposed, but the underlying vulnerability remained. As the story concluded, the city faced an important lesson. Liverpool's charm and vibrancy could mask threats, but awareness, courage, and investigation could illuminate even the darkest corners. The streets, alleys, and abandoned buildings that had once been symbols of fear became reminders of resilience and vigilance. For residents, the events of the past months were a stark realization of the city's dual nature, a place of history, culture, and beauty, yet also a city where danger had quietly thrived. In the end, Liverpool was left with both victory and warning. The criminal network had been dismantled, and the Kingpin's shadow was lifted. But the story served as a chilling reminder. The city's hidden corners could never be completely tamed. Danger might always linger, waiting silently for the unwary, while courage, vigilance, and collective effort remained the city's best defense against the darkness. The streets returned to normal, but the memory of what had been exposed would linger, a haunting testament to the hidden world that had thrived in the heart of Liverpool.